Welcome to Creative Connections, connecting the creative, creatively connecting everything else. Today we're talking about birdsong, not as expert birdwatchers, but as people who go for walks, sit in gardens, cross parks, or hear birds through an open window.
That's right. I'd been watching Clarkson's farm, and there was a moment that really caught my attention. Jeremy was worried about the birds on his farm, or the lack of them, and he had an app on his phone that listened to the birds around him and told him what they were.
So you downloaded it?
Immediately, I downloaded the Merlin app, and the next day I went out for a walk and tried it. But I should say I wasn't starting with no knowledge at all. I had a very basic knowledge of birds and birdsong. I could recognise obvious garden birds like blackbirds and robins, and I was always aware of birds singing when I went for a walk.
But mostly as background sound.
Yes, a lovely background sound, but still background. I'd notice the birdsong, enjoy it for a moment, and then carry on walking. I might wonder what a bird was, but I wouldn't usually be able to put a name to it.
Where did this particular walk begin?
I started down a footpath through trees. So at first I was walking under branches, with birds somewhere in the cover. It was the kind of place where you can hear birds quite clearly, but not always see them.
And what did the app pick up there?
It picked up birds like blackcaps and wrens. I knew wrens were small and I knew they had a big voice, but when the app identified one nearby, I paid much closer attention. That huge burst of song wasn't just general bird song coming from the hedge. It was a tiny hidden bird making itself heard.
So instead of just wondering what bird it was, you could actually put a name to it.
Exactly. I'd probably have noticed the bird song anyway, but once the app identified it, I listened more closely. And with blackcaps, the song is so rich and musical. The name sounds quite plain, blackcap, but the voice is beautiful. So even in that first wooded part of the walk, it wasn't just a path I was walking along. It was filled with birdsong.
Then the walk opened out, didn't it?
Yes. After the trees, I came out onto a bridleway beside a farm with sheep and cows in the fields. That changed the surroundings straight away. There were farm buildings, fences, open fields and hedges.
And probably some familiar countryside birds too.
Yes. There were wood pigeons, which are so familiar that we almost stop hearing them. Also, ring-necked pheasants, which are almost impossible not to hear. They have that startling call, and then sometimes they burst out of cover as if they're as surprised as you are.
They do add a bit of drama.
They certainly do, not to mention a bit of comedy. Pheasants are hard to ignore. They suddenly call and fly out from the hedge and almost give you a heart attack.
And the app was identifying birds as you went?
Yes, but what was interesting was that it didn't make me stare at the phone. If it suggested a bird, I wanted to know where the sound was coming from. Was it in the hedge, in a tree, on a wire, somewhere above the field?
So it made you pay more attention to what was around you.
Exactly. Usually we think of phones as distracting us from the world around, but in this case, the phone helped me stop, listen, and look around.
You were hoping to hear a corn bunting, weren't you?
Yes, once I knew I was going to be walking near farmland, I was hoping I might hear one. I knew a little about corn buntings, but not enough to be confident I would recognise the song.
And that happened the very first time you used the app.
It did, which was a real surprise. The app picked up a corn bunting, so I listened more carefully and looked around to see where the sound was coming from. Then I spotted it high up on a tree branch, still singing. There were wheat and barley fields nearby, so the setting made sense, but I was still surprised to hear one, let alone see it.
What did it sound like?
Its song is often described as jangling. It's not smooth and sweet like a blackcap. It has a different quality, a short, rattling sound that really stands out once you know what you're listening for.
Did that change how you listened after that?
Yes, I've probably heard that kind of sound before without knowing what it was. But once I could put a name to it, I started listening more closely. It wasn't just birdsong in the background anymore. I was beginning to hear different birds in different parts of the walk, such as jackdaws, goldfinches, common buzzards, chaffinches, blue tits and red kites.
And the app picked up skylarks too.
Yes, loads of them. I could hear them all around me, near the wheat and barley fields, but I couldn't see them. I kept looking up, trying to spot them, and wondered whether they were high in the sky or somewhere in the fields nearby. I could hear them clearly, but I couldn't work out exactly where they were.
So the sound seemed to be coming from everywhere.
Yes, and sometimes you don't see them at all. You stand there looking upwards, trying to find this tiny bird somewhere above the field, singing continuously. It can seem as though the sound is coming from the sky rather than from a bird.
So you're not just noticing what's beside the path, you're noticing what's happening above you as well.
Yes, I was noticing much more than just the path ahead. There were sounds coming from the hedges, the fields and above me, so the walk became more interesting than it normally is.
Are you saying the walk felt different once you started listening more closely?
It did. I was more aware of where the sounds seemed to be coming from, even when I couldn't see the birds themselves.
Did you hear any swallows?
Yes, the Merlin app picked up barn swallows with their fast, twittering, chattering song. They were easy to see because they were flying low over the fields and around the farm buildings. They're such a recognisable part of a walk like that, always moving and often close enough to follow with your eyes.
So the swallows were much easier to spot than the birds hidden in the hedges or fields.
Yes, much easier, partly because of their recognisable forked tails. And while looking up, I also noticed red kites soaring overhead and hovering over the fields.
Were there any birds the app identified that you didn't really know at all?
Yes, the app also picked up linnets, with their lively, twittering song, quick trills and little musical phrases. Not as loud as some birds, but still quite musical. I wasn't sure what a linnet looked like, so when the app identified the song, I looked more closely at the picture on the app screen. I was surprised by how colourful they are. The males have a silvery grey head, chestnut brown backs, and red-pink patches on their forehead as well as their breasts. It was great that the app was also helping me identify the bird, not just the sound. And once I knew a little more about them, they made sense in that setting too, because linnets tend to nest in thick cover rather than out in the open, especially thorny hedgerows, brambles, scrub and gorse, which I saw in several places along my walk.
So the app was useful in more than one way.
Yes, it identified the sound, but it also gave me a picture of the bird and a bit more information that made me more likely to remember it.
This particular walk was in the countryside, but you don't need to be somewhere special to try it, do you?
No, not at all. My walk happened to go through trees, past a farm, and near wheat and barley fields, so I heard birds you might come across in the countryside, especially around farms and field edges. But the same idea works in a garden, a town street, a churchyard, a park, a canal path, or a small group of trees beside a road.
So the point is not that everyone needs to go looking for corn buntings or skylarks.
Exactly. Those were part of my walk because of where I was. Someone else might hear robins, blackbirds, sparrows, crows, gulls, starlings, great tits, blue tits, magpies or wood pigeons, and you can hear birds all year round. The birds change with the seasons, but the basic idea is the same. Go outside, enjoy being in nature, listen, and see what you can hear. It's also good for us. A walk gives you fresh air, movement, and a change of scene, and birdsong gives you a lovely sound to focus on. You don't need to make it complicated, just step outside and notice what's around you.
And did knowing the names make a difference?
Yes, it made me pay more attention. I didn't feel I had to identify every bird, but once I knew what one or two of them were, I listened more carefully to the rest.
So instead of hearing it all as one background sound, you were starting to pick out individual birds.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't just general birdsong anymore. I was starting to recognise separate birds and pay attention to where the sounds were coming from.
And the app is useful because it gives you a way in.
Yes, and that's the simple thing anyone can try. Go out for a walk, listen to the birdsong, and maybe learn the names of a few of the birds you can hear. You don't need to know everything. Even identifying one or two birds can make the walk more interesting because you start listening more closely.
So, after the walk, what did you come away thinking?
I think it was the realization that I'd probably heard many of those sounds before but hadn't known what I was hearing. The app just helped me identify some of them.
And once you had a few names, the walk became more interesting.
Yes, I'd gone out with a basic knowledge of birds and came back knowing a little more. Not a huge amount, but enough to make me listen more carefully next time.
So next time you go outside, you could just stop for a moment and listen.
Yes, and then, if you want to, use an app to help identify what you're hearing. You might already recognise more than you think, and you might learn the names of one or two new birds as well.
And once you do, the next walk may sound a little different.
It probably will, yes. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Creative Connections, come back next time and we'll draw a new map of connections. Wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, please like, subscribe or follow because it helps us keep the channel going and build even more creative connections.